Hello again, everyone. Mike Flanagan back with another Sport of Bowling show. Today is Tuesday, January the 24th. Hope you're doing well out there in bowling land, wherever you may be. Glad you're here to join us for today's U.S. Open preview show. This is an exciting time of the year for a lot of us bowling fans out here, and for those of us that work the events, of course. It doesn't get any better than the U.S. Open. I compare our sport to a lot of other sports, as many of you do as well. And, the Daytona 500 kicks off NASCAR, which is coming up in February on Fox. And we've got our U.S. Open kicks off the season this year on the PBA Tour. And of course, as all of you know, unless you've been hidden under a rock, all the coverage for the PBA season this year is going to be on BowlTV. So we're really looking forward to covering the entire season, and it's going to be a great one. So make sure, if you're not subscribed to BowlTV, you check that out at bowltv.com. Of course, we've got all the great events out there as well. Besides just the PBA, we've got everything under one roof. So we've covered that a lot, but we cannot wait to see you on BowlTV starting this Sunday. So the U.S. Open returns to Woodland Bowl, and it's always great to be there with Jim Doty, proprietor. You've seen him on TV in the front row. He loves professional bowling. He has a great relationship with all the players. Even in the bar, they have like all the old banners from people that have won there. It's just a really cool spot to have the U.S. Open. So the environment there is awesome. So if you have an opportunity to make it out there, we would definitely like to see you in person. Make sure you stop by and say hello to myself or anybody from the BowlTV crew, or anybody running the tournament, or the players, of course, getting autographs. It's going to be a great way to kick off the year. We do have one question already coming in from Jody Willie. Why is it not on actual TV? Well, it is on actual TV, but all of the qualifying is on BowlTV. But we've actually got a 9-person step ladder this year, which is new, totally new. It'll be 2 shows on TV, one on FS1 and one on Big Fox. But we'll get into all of that in just a little bit. But we're glad you're with us here today. Again, my name is Mike Flanagan. I host the Sport of Bowling show, and we are going to preview and make some picks and have some fun talking about the U.S. Open. And we would like to invite you, the audience, to participate and comment, whether you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube or on BowlTV. We'd be more than happy to field some of your questions throughout the show. So glad you're with us. Today on the show, I've got a couple of colleagues that are going to be joining me today that are a wealth of knowledge and bring a different perspective than I do. So I think you're really going to enjoy this one. Make sure you stick around. We're going to be joined here in a little bit by a gentleman that we brought on to BowlTV. You may have seen him a little bit if you've been tuning into BowlTV, but he's going to be with me during the PBA Tour the entire season. His name is Chase Kaufman. We'll get to Chase in just a little bit, but if you want to buy stock in somebody, I would buy a lot of stock in Chase Kaufman. We're going to have a great season together, and I invite you to join us. But first of all, we got to get to the guy that I put out a poll on BowlTV last weekend and surprised him, whether he's the hardest working man in bowling, whether he is the wealth of knowledge or a Star Wars nerd. But he's all of the above. Let's bring in Jason Thomas, my man. He's down in Arlington right now. He's at the BowlTV studios. Great to have you here, buddy.
Yeah, I will say not a single person of the hundreds of thousands that were watching the show when you posted that poll said I was the hardest working man in bowling. So just saying, I guess I'm just a Star Wars nerd. And my stock is definitely going down, but I did buy stock in Chase Kaufman. So I got that going for me, which is good.
That's a good one. So JT, I call you the Encyclopedia Britannica here. I would like to know the event itself. We've got another event that we're going to be putting on BowlTV. I want to talk about that. It's a collegiate event. Can we cover that as well? Because I think a lot of people forget about this.
Yeah, we've got the PBA Collegiate Invitational that's going on at the same time as the U.S. Open. It's going to go across town. I'm going to take a little field trip with Brian Kane. We're going to cover that. Some of the players that are actually competing in the U.S. Open are going to run across town and compete in the Collegiate Invitational. So it's going to be a busy week for those players, but it's going to be a great week here on BowlTV for you guys watching at home.
Okay, cool. I think that's been kind of totally forgotten about and totally hidden under a rock. So, folks, that event's going on simultaneously for part of the
as if the U.S. Open going on 3 squads a day, 8 games each squad is not enough. There is more stuff coming your way on BowlTV. So yeah.
JT, we talk a lot about prize money, or at least, the public does, right? The tournaments, how could that bowling doesn't pay more, things like that. I was looking over here on my other screen. I'm going to look off screen for a second here. The 2023 US Open prize fund, it's going to have 108 players in the field. We'll talk about the makeup of the field when we bring Chase on. But we've got 108 entries, and it's $500 to enter the tournament. That totals $54,000. Okay. This prize fund, JT, is $279,000. There is $225,000 in added dollars. I think that's outstanding.
Yeah, I'm gonna pop the prize fund up here for you guys to
Okay.
see it. But yeah, here it is right here.
Beautiful.
And yeah, let's take it into full screen for you guys at home so you can see the numbers in big. Let's just, there we go.
I mean, 100K up top for these
Yeah.
years is, I mean, that's a huge win for bowling. I think we forget about that.
Yeah, no, it is. Anthony Simonson took home $200,000 checks last year in the USBC major event. So he's doing very well. But yeah, the added money is the piece, to look at. And I'm gonna go ahead and just scroll up a touch, and you can see the total prize fund 279,000, entry fees 54,000, and then that added money. The players are bowling for 225,000 more than what they're putting in. So great prize fund. Even if you don't win and you make the top 24, you're still having a really good week. If you make the shows, you're going to have a good week. And, obviously finishing first or second, it's basically going to make your year on the PBA Tour.
Yeah, so you and I, we'll talk a little bit about format here. So there's been some changes, and it seems like every year in bowling we have changes to format, schedule, all those things. So we just kind of get used to it. But this particular year, we start with a PTQ, and I was looking at the PTQ list here. This thing's full, right?
Yeah, it is. 108 players. They're going to be bowling for, it looks like 18 spots at the moment. If anybody were to drop out or withdraw, then more spots would go to the PTQ. But yeah, I mean, it's really hard just to get through the PTQ. I actually, a long time ago, won a qualifier to bowl in the US Open, and it was probably the most significant accomplishment of my bowling career, just competing in the event. And so you've got a number of really great players who didn't get, the invite to come out and bowl, who are going to try to make their way into the field. And that's going to be a big story on Sunday that we're going to cover on BowlTV, is who makes it into the tournament proper. And I really feel like the field is so quality. I mean, you really could have somebody from the PTQ make one of the shows. The field is that good.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And reminder to everybody, if you want to know when you want to start watching the US Open, it kicks off this Sunday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern is that PTQ. 108 players, and then 18 will make it out of there, as you just mentioned, to join 90 others that are exempt into the field. That it's an invite-only tournament, right?
That's right. There's 16 different criteria that you have to have qualified through to get your invite. And, it's really a who's who of the best bowlers from, the professional level, the amateur ranks, the collegiate ranks. So, I mean, really, it's a small field, but it is really, really stacked. Everybody that you'd want to have in a tournament to determine who the best bowler in the world is, you're going to have there at the US Open next week.
And they're using 24 lanes at Woodland Bowl, right? 24 lanes are in use.
Yeah, that's right. It's a reduced competitive playing field. There's actually a number of lanes set aside for a practice range. So the players will come in the morning or in the afternoon before their squad starts. They'll get to practice off to the side, and then they'll move right to their starting lanes, get one shot on each lane, and then competition starts so that the pattern integrity holds up throughout the whole tournament.
Yeah, and with the advancement in bowling balls and the urethane and who you're paired with and all that decision was made several years ago now, to where you have the practice range. You just go straight onto your pair and you bowl. So
yeah, that's right. And it'll go fast. I mean, it's 3 8-game squads per day, but they bowl fast because it's only 3 on a pair. So it might be a little bit of a different pace that you're going to have to get yourself accustomed to if you're not used to bowling so fast. A lot of these players are used to bowling, college tournaments where you might not throw a shot for a half hour between shots. You're going to be throwing a lot of shots in a rapid fire way. So, and the lanes are going to be brutal. So it's very easy to, get going in the wrong direction and have it snowball and shoot yourself out of the tournament if you're not careful, because it goes fast.
Yeah, 8 games of qualifying each day on a different pattern. So we'll see 3 patterns, and then there will be a 4th pattern that gets started to be used in match play. And the change this year, JT, there is no cashers round.
That's right. Yeah, because of the change to the format with the 2 shows and the 9-player stepladder, the cashers round was eliminated. It's one less block that you're going to get to bowl on that pattern 4. I think a lot of the players kind of use that. The ones that were safe in the qualifying kind of use that as a practice a little bit. Obviously, you don't want to, not try and shoot yourself out of the tournament or drop too many spots, but they won't have that now. They're going to go straight into match play with pattern 4, and you better be ready. And I really think one thing that we haven't seen a lot of in the last few years, Mike, is a lot of players practicing on practice day on pattern 4. I mean, remember a couple of years ago, we did the event and we had one guy out there practicing on pattern 4. I think you're going to see a lot more players practice on pattern 4 this year because you're going to have less time to kind of get yourself accustomed to it.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. That pattern 4 is always the key. They all are trying to look just to make it in. Then they're like, okay, pattern 4. Now that we're here, now it's go time. And you've seen people just accelerate on that pattern 4 in years past. So it really separates the cream of the crop. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So this year again, everybody, we're gonna get through match play. Match play is gonna be on Friday. Two rounds of match play. Then Saturday morning, we'll come back with the last 8 games of round robin match play, top 24, like the usual. My favorite format in bowling, with the 30 bonus pins awarded. And then we're going to have that show on FS1 with the 5th through the 9th seeds to determine who will be the number 5 seed for Sunday's show on Fox. So a 9-person stepladder this year.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting day because you're going to get to start the day on BowlTV and watch who makes it to the show. And that's always exciting, the position round, determining who gets there. But I mean, it's going to be very unlikely that the 9 seed's going to win the show, but the 9 seed's going to have a chance. And it's going to be an awesome day that day to figure out who makes that final spot for the big show on Fox on Sunday.
Yeah, and my thing is, the thing I'm going to be watching for is some crafty veteran with 5+ titles makes it into that 5 through 9 round, right? Because experience kind of has an advantage a lot of times in the stepladder finals. And can the 5 players, or I'm sorry, the 4 players that are waiting on Sunday, are they going to look at that group and say, man, I hope this guy doesn't make it? Or what if Belmo doesn't get a hit here or there, and Belmo's in that bottom, they're like, oh geez, hopefully somebody beats Belmo, right? So
yeah,
that'll be cool.
Yeah, we've certainly seen him sneak onto a few shows in 5th place and go up the ladder and take the title. So, if he were the name that were 9th and ran the ladder, I mean, how scared would everybody on the show be that last day?
Yeah.
It would be pretty crazy.
No kidding. Okay, so we've gone over the format. I think we completely understand that. And if anybody wants to look over all the information, they can head over to bowl.com, click on tournaments, click on US Open, and there's a plethora of information there. And again, we're live streaming everything on our BowlTV platform. We invite you to come and be a subscriber to BowlTV. You can sign up for the event. You can sign up for the month. You can sign up for the year. So I think it's time that we start getting into the fun part of this, the subjective part of our show. The part where our fans can throw stones at us or agree with us or make their own selections. And we'll start to kind of beat around and talk about the field a little bit. So let's bring in our broadcast team partner. Let's bring in Chase Kaufman. Hey, Chase.
Hey, sorry, I was checking my Robinhood account. My stock went up from 3 cents to 5 cents. You preamble there, so appreciate that.
Very nice. Sorry to be so long-winded and make you wait there, Chase.
That's all right. I'm enjoying you guys talking. I'm excited for the PBA. I'm excited for the Open, so it should be fun.
Yeah, Chase, if you just don't mind, to those that, you're a new face to BowlTV, Jason and I are dinosaurs. If you could just give everybody just a little bit about your background, a little bit why you're going to be part of BowlTV this year, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, so I've been bowling for 20 plus years now. I bowled at Lawrence Tech for 4 years. We made the show in 2019. I've worked on bowling streams in the past, and now I'm here with BowlTV, done a handful of events. I'm really excited to do the PBA here. I've been streaming for 7-8 years now, just on my own with other streams, BowlTV now. So I'm excited. It should be a fun PBA Tour season for sure. There's going to be a lot of events And a lot of guys, when I look down the list of 50 to 100 people that I think could definitely make their season memorable in more ways than one.
Yeah, I agree. And I still like the text message you sent me, which was, since we're going to be married for a couple of months, we're going to have some fun out there. So
that's right.
Hopefully you don't have any bad habits that annoy me. Okay. So
I don't know. I mean, we've worked with each other once. So if there's anything that annoyed you, get it out now before we get started. It's not, it's staying.
All right. Sounds good. Well, we welcome you to be part of the PBA coverage this year. And I think everybody's really going to enjoy their time with yourself, myself, and the rest of the crew. I mean, we've got an expanded crew, the US Open. We've got so many people working. We'll let you tune in to see who's working, but we got a bunch of people working at it.
Yeah, we've got Jim Palmer and Dr. Joyce Brothers on the staff this year too.
No kidding.
Just like the Naked Gun.
Okay, and we've also got Spielberg is still going to produce the shows.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah. All right, guys. Let's get into the PTQ. Okay, let's get into this one a little bit here. Again, 108 players in the PTQ, and 18 are going to make it out of the PTQ. But the one thing is, as we mentioned on the top of the show, is that if someone is injured or has to withdraw, there will be 5 alternates that will be able to practice with the players in case they get brought in into the actual main field of the tournament. And there is one player I do want to highlight and talk about, which is Kyle Sherman. He's been nursing a back injury, and we don't know if he's going to be able to compete. And I don't know of any other injuries that are out there. Maybe you guys do, but Kyle Sherman is a question mark for this year's US Open.
Yeah, that's a good point. And, I think the one thing that, makes me not want to be one of those 5 that are just on the outside looking in is it's the first tournament of the year. So you really probably don't have a lot of lingering injuries that might crop up, like we saw with Jason Sterner a couple years ago. If you remember, we had the Masters right before the US Open, and he had a terrible finger issue, and nobody picked him to make the show. He ended up making the show on the US Open. But these guys have been taking care of themselves. They've been resting up. They've been, saving their energy for the US Open. There might be some rust out there even, but they're going to knock it off real quick, because US Open has a way of very quickly making you feel like you need to be sharp. So, but I think it's probably very unlikely that we're going to have a lot of withdrawals other than, the Kyle, who you mentioned, Mike.
Yeah, I'm not sure, where everybody's at right now. Team trials, I know, was a warm up for a lot of folks, and everybody seemed to be pretty healthy there from what I could tell. But we'll see. We don't know where folks are, in the off season. JT, could I ask you to bring up there the PTQ, the PTQ roster there? Chase, I was looking up and down the roster. Are there any players that stand out to you that you think are shoe-ins, to make the top 18?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say shoe-ins just because bowling's such a variant sport. I mean, you could literally see a guy that you think is a shoe-in finish 100th out of the 108. But a guy that I focused on during the regional tour for much of last year was Michael Davidson. I mean, Michael Davidson is probably you could probably say he's a top 100 bowler in the U.S. Michael's had a ton of good regional finishes. He's had a ton of good PBA finishes. Last year, he bowled in a lot of PBA events last year, including the World Championship, the World Series, both the David Smalls events. So he's bowled in tons of events, and I feel like that's got to be a guy that's going to make it through.
Stephanie Alexander is chiming in with somebody I have my eye on here, right here, and that's Eric Jones. Eric Jones just won a regional last weekend. Eric's been bowling phenomenal, and there's a lot of the PBA guys that are starting to notice that name. What do you know about Eric?
Eric, I believe, is a senior out of Oklahoma. I could be wrong, but I believe he may be going to Oklahoma Christian next season. But again, he's one of those guys on the regional tours where after I'm watching every single regional event and writing articles, that every time there was an event with him in it, I feel like I was putting his name in that article, whether it was for the step ladder, whether it was for top qualifier, whether he won the event. So that's definitely a name to watch. He's obviously younger, like a lot of this field is, but that's the guy that definitely should be paying attention to now. You were talking about buying stock earlier. That's a guy you may want to buy stock in because he's done really well for his age so far. I'm
just going to go ahead and throw it out there and say he's going to make top 18. So I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just saying it. because I don't mind. JT, anybody on this list here that stands out to you?
Yeah, I look. You know, I'm right here on Jeffrey Mann, and really good youth player, excellent collegiate player, local, so he knows the place very well, and he's going to have a lot of hometown folks pulling for him. So that name really sticks out to me when I go up and down the roster. Tim Foy, he won the PTQ a couple of years ago. So his name, he's a seasoned veteran. Zach Tackett, you see his name here on the list as well. J.R. Raymond. So Cortez Schenk. So those are some really great names. Chris Sloan, another one as well, who I would consider to be your favorites for getting through. But again, it's 8 games and anything can happen, and there's a lot of really great bowlers that are going to be taking part in this that could have a great day and make it through.
I saw we kind of talked about this in a lot of collegiate events where there's going to be a team that's good and doesn't make the cut. It's going to be the same thing here. I could pick out 20 guys here that are shoo-ins to make the cut, and obviously not all of them are going to make the cut. There's going to be some disappointed fans and bowlers out there that just aren't going to get in because there's so many good bowlers on this roster.
Yeah, Stipich is on there. I just see his name. He bowled well at team trials. So yeah, I mean, a lot of good names on that list. It's pretty amazing how deep the field goes, in men's professional and top rank amateur bowling.
And the rookie of the year race starts this event as well, and some eligible rookie of the years are already in the field, and some have to make their way into the field because they qualified through other events. So when you said Cortez Schenk, I saw a nice article that Nolan Hughes put out on the PBA website where he's kind of previewing, breaking down some of these rookie of the year races, and Cortez Schenk is right there on that list. But a guy like Nate Stubler also on the list. Stubler's already in the field.
Yeah, and he's already made a PBA show.
Yeah.
Prior to even joining. So, he's and we've been following his career since he was, out of diapers. So, I mean, he's incredible talent. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see him win a title and or pull off rookie of the year.
Yeah.
Another guy you mentioned, you're talking about that article that Nolan wrote, Dallas Leong. I feel like he's been around forever, and I think now is finally the time where he's going to try to go the distance. I feel like you could definitely see him making something. Another guy that I would be remiss if I didn't talk about was my guy Jordan Bryant. Bowled with him at LTU. I'm going to be pulling for him to make the field. So don't know if he's going to make it, but I'm going to be rooting for him. I'll just let you know that right now.
Yeah, Dallas Leong, you talk about him. He just bowled the Storm Utah Open. They had like a record amount of entries, bowling on like one of the hardest patterns you ever see. And he was like a plus 111, and the closest to him was like plus 10. So I think that's a good pick right there for sure.
Yeah, Dallas too is he's got so many tricks. He's kind of like a Francois Lavoie type. He doesn't have like the biggest rev rate or the biggest power game, but he's got so many tricks. And the US Open, that's what this tournament's all about, is versatility, trying to, kind of finesse the ball into the pocket rather than overpowering the lanes. I mean, certainly some of the two-handers and the power players have had some success in this event recently, but, Francois Lavoie's won it twice. And Norm Duke always does well. Obviously not going to be competing this time around because he's retired. But that type of player is what Dallas Leong reminds me of, and I think he could do very well in this tournament.
Yeah, as we get ready to transition into the main field here, I do want to give a shout out to the folks that are watching right now. Jennifer Hooten checking in, saying that she'll be helping in Shawnee, Oklahoma, which, just a reminder, the PBA season gets underway with the US Open, but we got back-to-back weekends, or not weekends, just weeks, we should say, because they do vary, where we're going to be going through the Midwest. We'll be going to Springfield, we'll be going to Shawnee, we'll be going to Wichita immediately after the US Open. Also, wanted to give a shout out to Stephanie again. She's looking forward to watching a bunch of bowling while she's at work. I know a lot of people watch these events while they're at work during qualifying. And also earlier you did drop a anything can happen, JT, and Northern Lounge just wanted to go ahead and let you know that he paid attention to you there, letting you know.
Yeah. And if you haven't watched, by the way, Stephanie, Keegan's mom, if you haven't watched the video we put together on Keegan bowling at team trials, be sure to check that out over on the BowlTV YouTube channel. Caleb Smiley did a nice job following. It was a funny video. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed watching it. So be sure to check that out.
Definitely. And this brings us into one of my topics here, but because John LS39 is bringing this up, he says, what percentage of PBA 50 bowlers will be bowling in the US Open? And we have a percentage for lefty righty breakdown for you, but we did not do the PBA 50 breakdown for you. But I was wanting to bring it up to you guys. There are some folks that are over 50 years old that will be participating in this event. Do we think we may see a 50-year-old make the top 9? That would be my question to you guys.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know we're going to talk about the bones later, but I would not be surprised to see Parker make it. I mean, he's in great form. He was player of the year on the PBA 50 tour last year. I think Brandon and Justin are going to push him a little bit. I don't think he wants those two whippersnappers to beat him. And I do think they're both going to do well in the tournament. So I think you might see a Parker Bone get there. But man, it's a tough one. These players are so good out there now. It's really tough for those players, even the great 50 plus players, to sneak in and get a spot. Although we did see Norm Duke make the Masters show last year, but that's a completely different format, completely different animal.
Yeah, there's not a ton of PBA 50 players that I look through the roster that are in there. Obviously, you got Chris Barnes, Parker Bone, and then we all know Tom Hess. There's not a ton of them. So if I had to put money on it, which I'm a betting guy, I'm an odds guy, I'm a math guy, I'll just look at the numbers all day long. Numbers never lie. I'd probably say no, just based on true math, not even looking at bowlers' talent or anything. 3 out of 108 bowlers making it to the top 9. I mean, you're not looking at great odds, especially like the field we've kind of gone down a little bit, how good these bowlers are. They're going to need quite the week to make it up there. I don't see it happening. Obviously it could happen because those guys are all 3 legends. But this week I'll put my money on no and hope one of them proves me wrong.
Yeah, we talk about the big 3 on the kids tours, what they call it, right? The regular PBA tour. You talk about Belmo, Simonson, and EJ, right? Those are the big 3. Well, the PBA 50 tour is no different, and it's the 3 players you just mentioned. It's every week it's Hess, Barnes, and Bone. That's what it was last year, the entire season. So I would love to see one of those guys make it. But I've talked to Chris at length about this, and I know many people have heard this already. But if you haven't, I'm going to share it. Out on the regular tour, these 50 guys struggle, especially on the right side of the lane, because what happens with the high rev rates is their hold goes away, and they get hanged to the right from what the big rev players do to them, and they're not able to create as much room. And then combine that with not being able to repeat shots as well as you get older, which they have also said, I'm not making this up, it does happen over time. And then they're at a disadvantage, and that's how they feel. Would you agree with that, JT?
I do, but I think some of the things that are done with the U.S. Open format make that a little better for them. They're fresh every round. That's going to help. Only 3 on a pair. That's going to help. So small squad size. And there are certain patterns that are going to ask you to keep the ball in front of you a little bit more than some of the other patterns that you might see on the PBA tour or during a regular event. So I do think there are some things with the format and the conditions that do give the 50 and older players a chance. But to Chase's point, I'm not sure I'd put my money on that.
Yeah, that's good. That's a fair point. That's a good point. And we talk about traffic on the lanes too. And let's go with what we were talking about before we even came on the air. This is the first time in a long time that we have this lefty stable coming, right? Mm-hmm. We have 16 lefties out of 108 players in the field that are left-handed, and it's almost 15% of the field are left-handed. I can't remember a time that much of the field is left-handed.
No, there's certainly a time about 15 years ago when I thought, left-handers were going to be the equivalent of the dinosaurs, that they were just going to go extinct because of the trend of the right-handers, more and more rev rate, more and more surface, getting left as fast as they can. Lefties, had nowhere to go. Basically, if you were a lefty that was versatile, that could play 3rd, 4th, 5th arrow, you couldn't do that anymore. So I really thought that left-handers were going to become extinct. And then, Jacob Buttriff and Jesper Svensson came along, started to use urethane, started to have a lot of success. and it kind of rejuvenated and revitalized the left-handed game. So we're at the point now where we've got, I mean, it's not just 15 lefties, it's 15 really good lefties. I mean, you could have 9 or 10 lefties make the top 24. And then you'd have something which you almost never see, which is a lot of transition on the left side during match play. And then we're going to get to really see how versatile those lefties are. But I mean, yeah, it's totally stacked on the left side. And it's actually good to see, because I thought it would be a bad thing if lefties went away completely, even though, you know, I'm a righty, and you know, I found myself complaining about lefties from time to time. But I think it's a great thing for the sport that we're seeing lefties come back.
Yeah, you kind of mentioned it's so top heavy with the lefties. Well, not top heavy, but just the lefties are so good that you could run down every single lefty on that roster and be like, yeah, he could make cut. He could make cut. He could make cut. And especially on the younger side too. I mean, you have Spencer Robarge, Cameron Crowe, Nate Stubler, Brandon Bones, Matt Russo. There's just so many young lefties too, to the point where you could see these guys for years to come, not just, you know, a couple years here at a time.
I agree. And every single name you mentioned there, I think of those players as not just like, oh, they could make it if the left side's easy that week. They could make it no matter what. They're just that good. Like Spencer Robarge, I would not be surprised to see him lead the tournament. He's that good already, and he's so versatile. So there's just so many really good lefties that can do so much. And I wouldn't be surprised to see a bunch of them make the show.
Yeah, obviously it starts with Buttriff and Svensson, right? We have to put them in their own category, right? We have to give them their due justice. They've been out there doing it. That they're the guys to beat on the left side. But as you guys mentioned, there are a lot of chasers, and there's a lot of other kind of tweener guys with one title, like a Matt Russo, like a Kevin Williams, who got his first title last year, you know? So I know he's got some new music dropping too, just to throw that out.
Yeah. Great Bowler's Journal article on him a couple months back, by the way.
Yeah, and you've got guys like Solomon Salama who's coming as well. You know, there's just, I mean, it's just a ginger assassin, right? You know,
I mean, Solomon led the qualifying at the Masters a couple years ago. I mean, and he's not even 18, I don't believe. So it's just stacked.
And I haven't even mentioned Packy Hanrahan, who's probably the best left-hander on tour without a title, right?
I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, he was top 15 in money last year without a title. Just bowled well every week, it seemed like. And it's just a lot of great lefties.
I have a question for our encyclopedia of Jason Thomas. You know, with all the YouTubers out there now, you know, YouTube has been a new trend, and it's a good thing. There's a lot of great YouTube channels out there. What is the policy at this event with recordings and cell phones and all that? Because that adds another dynamic.
Yeah, the players themselves aren't allowed to use electronic devices. So if somebody is vlogging for them, they wouldn't be able to go back and look at the footage. That's basically the reason for it. So we should see some content coming out of that, but it's a little different than what you'd have at a normal, you know, event.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
I know it's always kind of a challenge. They got to find people in the crowd to do some filming and stuff for them.
Right.
So if you are in the area, or you're going to be there all week and you want to help out some of these vloggers, I'm sure they would love your assistance on the media side. Always got to look out for the media side, you guys. That's what I like to do.
Right. But we'll certainly be doing a lot of that on the BowlTV side and the social side as well. So
yeah, definitely want to make sure that you follow all of the USBC communications and social media accounts. That's for sure. All right, let's go around here a little bit here, guys. I've got some questions for you. I want to put you guys on the spot. We'll just go around in the circle as we are on the screen for now. I'll let you know when we counterclockwise this thing. The Bones. We've got Justin, we've got Brandon, and we've got Parker bowling. So JT, who's going to finish highest?
Wow, that's hard. That is a hard question. Gosh, I'm going to go with Brandon. And my reason is I just think he's so good. I mean, he just came off of the win at Team USA trials. He just won junior gold. He's out there bowling every week in college, so he's super sharp. I just think he's going to be the one to beat out of that clan. And he's got, The other two, I don't know what squads they're all on. I don't know if they're all bowling the same squad, but if they're not, I mean, he's got his dad back there helping him. So that's going to be super huge boost. And his dad's like bowling Yoda. So, I mean, I think it's got to be Brandon.
They are all on different squads, by the way. I just
Okay.
said.
All right. Yeah. Yeah.
You kind of mentioned it there. His dad is bowling Yoda. So I'll take Parker. I mean, I just think experience comes into play here at the Open, especially when you're bowling 24 games as opposed to the 5 or 6 you're going to bowl in a collegiate event. It's going to obviously play a little differently without 10 people on your pair. It's going to be 3 people on a pair. Not to say that Brandon won't average 250 like he's done in about 1,000 tournaments this year. But I'll just take the experience, and I'll say Parker then.
Yeah, and I out of the get-go, I'm not doing this to be different, but I was going to take Justin because it seems like whenever somebody in that family has kind of a not a great event, they always bounce back. And Justin didn't have a great team trials, and he watched his brother, kill it at the U.S. Amateur or take that one down. So I think Justin's kind of the guy hidden under a rock. So I'm going to take Justin. Let's switch over to the Barnes family. Which I'm a little, I need to talk to them about their marketing a little bit. Maybe they should have consulted with me because, it was Beef and Barnesy, which they had a show this morning. You should go check it out, everybody. But now Ryan Barnes has a channel and he's just called Barnesy. I mean, how confusing is that? I don't get it, but hey, I wish, go subscribe to their channels. They're promoting the sport. And
well, knowing Chris, Dad licensed him the name, and he's and Ryan's having to pay.
He's paying royalties on that for sure. There's no way he's not paying per view.
Now I understand why that happened. Okay, so who do you guys like? We'll go counterclockwise here. Who do you like finishing higher, Chris or Ryan Barnes?
I'll take Chris again. I'll just take the experience. I mean, he's been doing it for years. I'll stick with what I know, and I'll just take the experience.
Okay. I practiced down in the ITRC. It wasn't really practice. I mean, practice implies you're going to do something with it, and that's not what I'm doing. I was just down there bowling, and Chris and Ryan were bowling next to me, and we were bowling on the Earl Anthony pattern, 43 feet, which, by the way, is about 100 times softer than what they're going to bowl on at the U.S. Open, and I struggled to shoot 190 on it, and Ryan, I took a little break. He came over to my pair, and I was like, oh, let's see what he can do on this. And he threw about a 15 bagger with 3 different balls, not even trying. So I just feel like he's so good. He's so talented. And again, he's got his dad behind him, lining him up. But his dad doesn't want to lose to him, but he's not going to not give him the information. So I think Ryan is just a huge superstar, up and coming. He's got his dad behind him. At some point, he's going to beat Dad in a tournament if he hasn't done it already. I think Dad beat him by a few at the Lucy last year. It was pretty funny, but I think Ryan's got the edge. I think Ryan's going to take down Dad at the U.S. Open this year.
Well, here's the thing: are any of the patterns going to be a house shot? You think, JT?
No.
Well, then I can actually think about Ryan beating Chris because I've covered some amateur events where a house shot's been put out and Ryan Barnes can't knock anything down. Now I know at North Rock Lanes he can knock them all down, but on a house shot right now I think that it's that kid's kryptonite. He's got to figure out house shots. But since it's the U.S. Open, and I don't think we're going to see a house shot, even though all the patterns are hidden until 30 minutes before. I would love Hoagland one year has put out a house shot one day. That'd be fun. But since that's not going to happen. I'm gonna take Ryan Barnes, and it's only because he also knows how to throw a backup ball, and if for some reason they're really good on the left, and those 9 left-handers make the step ladder, which is entirely possible, long shot, but he could actually be right there with them. Could you imagine the step ladder? Him and Simon throwing backup balls with 7 other lefties.
Oh my gosh, that would be crazy. Yeah, the world might implode.
I got one more sibling or nepotism in here. We've got the Malots, Jordan and Wes, right? I don't know the last time Wes Malott is bowled. I haven't seen the man compete. I don't know his health, that's been an issue over the years. I don't know if Wes Malott's just going to come out and win this thing and just put out, be like, hey, everybody, forget about me. So who do you like between Jordan and Wes? JT, we'll let you go first.
All right. So, man, Jordan is awfully good. He's so talented. But I just think I'm going to go with the older guy this time. I'm going to go with Big Wes. He's had a lot of success in the U.S. Open. He just knows how to get the pins down at the U.S. Open. He's kind of like, Tiger Woods at Augusta National. Tiger just knows how to play that course. I think Wes just knows his way around the U.S. Open. He's so patient. And I think, Jordan has a lot to learn in terms of the patience department, even though his dad, has been trying to teach him all that. And he's super talented. But I think Wes is going to win that one this week.
So in Jordan's 3 events that he bowled for Huntington this year, he averaged 222, which is very, very close to what Brandon Bone was averaging for this year. But I mean, I've gone with experience the first 2 times. Do I want to do it again? I'll take Wes.
Yes, you do.
Well, they are on different squads as well. I did check that out. I'm just gonna take Wes until proven otherwise. So
yeah,
we're gonna go with that.
All right,
guys. Let's maybe make some bold predictions. I do have a note here that we do need to remind everybody that Santu means defender of mankind, and he is the reigning rookie of the year and is looking to have a bust out year. I do have that written down here. One other topic before we get to that, weight changes, guys. This is kind of like the first day of school. We've got the new ball companies. Marshall Kent moved again, but you've also got these guys that have changed weight. Stu Williams dropped to 15 pounds. Bill O'Neill has dropped to 14 pounds. Is there going to be an adjustment period for these guys?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Marshall struggled at team trials with his bowling balls. He didn't bowl that bad physically, but I watched him bowl a few games, and I was like, hey, what happened there in the 6th frame? And he's like, well, I saw something. I went to a ball that I thought was going to be long, and it ended up being short. And then I switched a couple of games later to a ball I thought was going to be short, and it was long. So yeah, he doesn't have the equipment figured out yet. And, when you bowl on these patterns, especially at the US Open, that's going to pick you apart. You've got to know, you have to have everything completely dialed in. So, maybe between, team trials and this tournament, he did tell me last year, I had a dinner with him, and he said, I'm going to win 2 majors next year. Mark my words. So, and he's had success in the US Open. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him bowl well, but I do think there's going to be an adjustment period for him and for the players that, made the weight changes. Bill O'Neill's going to be interesting because if he comes out and he whacks him with 14 pounds, how many other guys are going to switch to 14? And how quick is that going to happen? So I'm really curious to see how he does and what, is he going to leave 8 10s with a 14-pound ball? Is he going to, throw more messengers? Who knows? He seemed to think at the time that he was doing the change that 14 was going to give him a little bit more entry angle, and it was going to be, neutralize it, and it was going to let him extend his career a little bit. So I don't know. I'm curious to see that one more than all of them, really.
I mean, it makes sense that there would be some sort of transition period from switching weights, not necessarily physically. I feel like that would, I feel like you could pick it up pretty much right away. It's just throwing, a pound difference. But I feel like the transition of going from house to house and pair to pair is what's going to be different for these guys changing ball weights. Not necessarily the physical game, but mentally, I think is where it's really going to come into play. And it might not be the same everywhere because obviously every house is different. But I really think that's where their transition that may take a month or 2 is going to come into play, is when they go from house to house and they have to move from pair to pair on that house and from shot to shot. And when you're bowling on US Open with 3 guys on a pair, and where there's not going to be as much transition as, the World Series or whatever else, where there's 5 to 6 guys on a pair. So I think it's more, that's where it's going to come into play, when these guys have to figure out what they're going to do mentally, both in their head and on the lanes, not necessarily their physical game. I think that's probably figured out by now.
Yeah, remember all the bowling balls have different core numbers throughout the different weights, so they'll have to get accustomed to that as well. But I do want to just mention that Brianna Cote won PWBA Player of the Year throwing 14 pounds. She dropped down to that weight, and that worked out very well for her. And Deandra Asbeatty saw a spike in her finishing positions when she dropped to 14 pounds. So we've seen straighter players, lower rev rates on the ladies tour, have success with 14 pounds. So maybe Bill O'Neill is going to be Player of the Year. Maybe, huh?
Hey, maybe. It's only
there's
3.
enough value on those odds. I'll bet them. I'm always looking for value.
Yeah.
All right, so I got a couple guys here that I just want to throw out their names for everybody at home to kind of just say, hey, Mike, pick these guys. We want to see if he looks like a genius or a complete idiot. But there's just a couple names I want to mention. Kim Bowlby, the word on the street, he's been crushing it across the pond. He's been crushing it. So Kim Bowlby, I'm gonna have him down as a match play finalist. Brandon Bonta is another name. We saw him perform so well at team trials. He bowled good across all the patterns, made the U.S. Amateur. I've got Brandon Bonta as a top 24 finalist. I also have Patrick Dombrowski, who just won the RPI. Patrick Dombrowski also made the top 24 at the U.S. Open last year. I got Dombrowski making the top 24. I've also got Francois Lavoie, who's won the U.S. Open twice already, and 3 of his 5 titles are all majors. I've got him making the top 24, and then I've also got I'm making a very, 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 very bold prediction here. This is super bold because even though I love this guy and he brings a lot to the sport, he hasn't bowled very well, and he said it on his show earlier this morning. I got Stu Williams making the top 9 at the U.S. Open, and I'm sure he's going to clip this off and he's going to put this all over his social media. But Stu Williams dropping to 15 pounds, and he went and just worked with Mark Baker. He and Barnes did. I think Stu Williams coming off the Snowman doubles, I think he makes the top 9. So there's just a few bold predictions from your man right here. And before we wrap up the show, after you guys make some of your predictions and what you guys are looking forward to, we will pick our winners. Stick around for that one. Who wants to go next?
Yeah, I'll go. I'm not going to have as many as you, but I'm gonna pick Nate Stubler to make the show. I just think he is such a great grinder. Him and Cameron together on that St. Ambrose team were just deadly. But Cameron's kind of the guy that's got the firepower. Nate he's never going to throw a bad game. He's just always going to hang in there and grind it out. And I think that's what you have to do at the U.S. Open. So I think he's going to have a good chance to make the show. Here's my other prediction. I'm going to leave it at this one. Ronnie Russell makes the show. He's had a lot of success in the U.S. Open in this building. And he really desperately wants to bowl well there because it's hometown. And so I feel like he's going to have a great week.
So I'm going to bring this back to what you said earlier. You kind of dubbed the big 3 with being Belmo, Simo, and EJ Tackett. And that was kind of a question I wanted to ask you guys as well as I bring up my guy. If there was anybody to join themselves in that big 3 this year, who do you think it would be? So my prediction would be Dom Barrett. I mean, obviously he's right on the cusp of being in that big 3. He won a couple titles last year. He won at, where did he win? He won at the TOC. But he's had so many good finishes last year. You can go down his list, look, and just see 1s, 2s, 4s, 6s, 5s, 7s. There's just so many top 10 finishes for this guy. I have a hard time believing that he's not going to make a run this next weekend at the U.S. Open. Another guy that I want to talk about, in other sports, you kind of look at teams that have been unlucky, maybe, where they're losing every game by 1 point, or maybe they went into overtime every single game and their record is 0-10 in overtime. A guy that kind of reminds me there of just being on that cusp is Nick Pate. I mean, Nick Pate's he finished 3rd at David Small's Best of the Best, 2nd at the Kokomo. He finished 6th in Colorado. He made the cut at the World Series last year without making a cut in any of the animal patterns, showing how consistent that guy is. So I'll take Nick Pate as one of my sleepers to make. I'll say the top 5, Nick Pate, not just the top 9. I'll put Nick Pate in the top 5. And then I think Michael Davidson's one of the best bowlers in the PTQ. I'll take him to make the top 24. So I don't know what kind of odds that can get me, but I'll take him to take it out of the PTQ and then make it into the match play portion of the actual tournament. And then I'll say Matt Russo. That's another guy that I think is kind of starting to gain his traction on the PBA Tour. Obviously had a tough finish at the Players Regional last year. I think this is one of those seasons where he could finally make that big jump and to get his name up there with the top 20 some guys.
JT, somebody's got a man crush on Michael Davidson.
I guess so.
He's good,
yeah.
man.
Yeah.
I see his name everywhere on the results, but I just don't see him like, on the shows. But I think everybody's got that year where they make that jump. Maybe this is his year too.
Well,
Mike, you are the king of the man crush on PTQ guys. Let me just say that you've always been, and I've always been like on the other side. I'm like, hey, I'll take Belmo and Rash. You can take your PTQ guys.
You can't just take chalk all the time. That's no fun. You got to put guys that are in the PTQ or in the bottom 100 of the rankings. That's no fun to just take chalk.
It's not fun, but it makes you rich.
You called, you called us out and asked us about who we think would be the next person to possibly join the big three. I would say Jacob Buttriff, just quickly. What about you, JT?
Yeah, man, that's a hard question. I'd have to pick somebody that's just not on the list right now, because I think if they were already on the list, they would have already made it by now. So it's got to be somebody that's just coming out of nowhere, like a Santu. I love his game, and everybody just talks so highly of him. I think he could certainly be that next guy as part of the big three, if you want to make it the big four. Although that sounds terrible in bowling. Big four, that's bad luck.
Yeah, that is bad luck.
But yeah, I think Santu's the real deal. And I mean, I know Bill O'Neill's the real deal, but Santu's the new real deal in my book.
I don't know if you guys noticed, we got another William in the field. Normally Bill is the only Bill in the field. We have a second William for the first time in a long time that I've seen in the event. William Clark from Montgomery, Illinois joins Bill O'Neill as the only two Bills in the field. So that's kind of interesting.
There's a William Hibbard, Billy Hibbard is in the PTQ. Maybe he'll make it in.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
the all Bill team.
What does that pay for all of them to make it into the field?
I'll give you plus 1,500 on that.
Guys, my other topic here that I did skip over is this celebrity. There was a lot of talk about the celebrities getting into this event. And JT, you've got a little more insight on how Mookie Betts actually got his way into this event, right?
Yeah. He got the BPAA exemption, and Mookie's a great bowler. He's there. I know he's there because he's famous and he's a great baseball player, and of course I love him because he plays for the Dodgers, and I'm a Dodger fan. But he's a legit bowler. I mean, I would not be surprised at, once he's done with baseball, to see him go out and win on the PBA 50 tour, or even, come out and bowl on the PBA tour and make a little bit of noise when he's in his early 40s. Cause he's obviously a great athlete, but he just loves bowling so much. And I'm really curious to see how he does at the U.S. Open. He bowled the World Series a few years back, did okay, bowled a 300, which was a huge story in bowling at the time. So he's got some game, but man, the U.S. Open is not the event that you would come out and not be sharp in and try to bowl. So it's going to be really interesting to see how he does. He's a very serious competitor, so he's not going to take kindly to not bowling well. He's going to go out there and try. I don't think he's going to finish last. Because there's going to be some guys in there that, tank it because the U.S. Open does that to you. It breaks your spirit and you pack it in. Mookie's not going to pack it in. He's not going to finish last. So I will say that. But I'm curious to watch him and see how he does.
Yeah, I remember watching a podcast that Mookie was a guest on, and they asked him what was his best day, because he played basketball and bowled at the same time. Like it wasn't one or the other. So on the same day, they asked him, what was your best day? He goes out. I think he went for like a triple double, scored 30 or 40. And then later that night, bowled in his high school match and shot an 800.
Wow.
So I don't think anything that this guy's, obviously he's focused on baseball for the most part of the year. I don't think there's going to be too much worry on his plate that, I haven't practiced enough. I think this bowling's in this guy's blood. I mean, he knows what he's doing. He's not worried about focusing 12 hours a day on bowling. I think he'll do just fine if you can go out there and put up a 40 spot and then shoot 800 the same day.
Yeah.
He's got great athleticism. I mean, he's a great basketball. He's a great basketball player. He's a great golfer. I mean, he does a lot of things right. He also started a new marketing company too, by the way, if you follow him on Instagram. I'm looking forward to talking to him about that a little bit. And then let's talk about Jimmy Allen, right? So he's in the PTQ field.
Yeah.
And Jimmy hasn't quite been involved in bowling as long as Mookie, but he loves the sport and he is in this PTQ. And I think we're all rooting for him to bowl well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the coolest thing about Jimmy is, we BPAA gave him this exemption to bowl in the PTQ. He's not going to bowl in the tournament, even if he makes it. And you know why he's not going to bowl in the tournament even if he makes it? Because he's performing on the Grammys during the tournament. So he actually called and said, "Hey, I got some bad news. I'm not going to be able to bowl the tournament if I make it through the PTQ because I'm performing in the Grammys." So we're like, that's not bad news. That's great news. So it's pretty cool that you have a Grammy performer bowling in the US Open and loves bowling as much as he does. It's just going to bring a lot of attention to the event and the sport. And there's just nothing bad about it.
Yeah, and I think it's so important to get those kind of guys in the sport. Obviously people argue that you're taking away a spot from somebody else, but look at the sport. It's fairly recent of its trend, but look at the sport of pickleball. Pickleball is one of the fastest growing sports in the league in the country right now. And all of a sudden LeBron James goes out and buys a pickleball team. Like, could you imagine bowling getting to that level where LeBron James is like, oh man, I'm going to go donate $1,000 or $1 million to the prize fund of the US Open or the USBC Masters. So I don't think it's a bad thing when you have these kind of stars come out on tour and bowl the PTQ or the actual event itself, just because it's so notable. I mean, it's not like Mookie's some scrub. He shot 300, like you said, at the World Series. So this isn't a guy that's going to go out there and average 140 and make the sport look bad. This is a guy that's going to go out there and get a few extra eyes on these events.
It does like 99 positive things for our sport, and one person doesn't get into the field. So
right.
99 versus 1 for me. I understand the argument. I'm not gonna just displace that or say, oh well, you're wrong. No, you are right, but there's 99 other rights that just outweigh it. Pros and cons here, and maybe that is Ronnie Russell and Jimmy Allen are buddies, and you picked Ronnie Russell's going to make the show, JT. So maybe maybe when Ronnie makes a show, Jimmy Allen, the day of the Grammys, eyes on him. Maybe he'll even sing a song to Ronnie Russell after he wins the US Open on the Grammys. How about that?
That would be incredible. That would be the best story of the week.
Putting that out in the universe.
Yeah.
I know Jimmy Allen's watching this today. I'm sure. All right, guys, we actually, this show has actually gone pretty well. I think I would go ahead and give us at least a B+ on this show. But we are running out of time. So our last, save the best for last. Who's going to win this year's US Open? Chase, we'll start with you.
I said it earlier. I said who was going to be the fourth guy to make the big three. I'll take Tom Barrett.
Oh.
Who did you say?
Sorry, Michael Davidson.
No.
Oh.
He's going to finish second.
All right, Tom Barrett's your pick. Okay.
Yep.
If the show goes any longer, Mike, we're going to miss our flights to go to the US Open.
I know.
So I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I'm going to pick Jason Belmonte. He's going to win his second US Open, and that means he will have all 5 majors 2 times around, which is pretty crazy if you think about it.
Jason taking the safe route. All right, Mike, give us something fun.
All right. I am taking this guy. If you remember from the picture that was posted on social media, Jacob Buttriff. That's who I'm taking to win the US Open. I think a lefty's going to win the US Open this year. I actually think we're going to see at least 3 left-handers make the top 9. The lefties are coming. Everybody needs to look out. But obviously the oil patterns are going to be the key to watch and see how those develop, and the lane play and the traffic. So you will be able to get more of this analysis throughout the event while the guys are bowling. We'll have every single pair covered for you on BowlTV. Guys, this has been a lot of fun here kicking it with you guys. We're going to spend a lot of time together in the next couple of months covering bowling, and hopefully folks enjoyed today's show. Any closing thoughts from you, JT?
Well, I just will say it's really exciting to kick off the PBA season on BowlTV, and what better way to do it than the US Open? It's just the coolest event. It's the event that all the players want to win more than any other, because if you win the US Open, nobody can ever say, yeah, that guy was a fluke. It's the legit tournament to win, and it's really cool to be able to kick off the new era on BowlTV of the PBA here on this platform with the US Open. So I'm really looking forward to it. And I also think if Jacob wins, that would be sensational. He's probably the guy that deserves to win the US Open more than anybody, given the 2 heartbreaking runner-up finishes, and the way he handled it was so classy. So I would certainly be happy to see Jacob win.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun year. I mean, there's so many good bowlers out there that I don't think there's going to be a ton of, like, I wouldn't say surprises, but a lot of shocking movements. Like, you could tell me any of these guys on this roster and be like, oh, this guy's going to win the Open. I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. So the field is so deep that anybody you pick to win, I would believe you. And that's kind of what's fun about it, is going into each and every tournament, each and every week, the Open, the World Series, the Masters, and knowing, like, we may very well get a first-time title this year. And we also may well see one of the big three guys win again. That's just what's so fun about the sport, is that it's so variant that you could see literally anything happen. So I'm really excited to see what comes forward, to see if there's any new player of the year, see if anybody wins their first title, and of course the rookie of the year as well.
Did you say anything can happen? I think you did.
Maybe.
This is great.
I said it without saying it. This is great.
I think you did. All right. Well, folks, we want to thank you for watching our Sport of Bowling show here today. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another Sport of Bowling show with great guests. I want to thank JT. I want to thank Chase for being here with us. And we will see you in a couple of weeks, but we will see you on BowlTV for the U.S. Open starting this Sunday. And remember, on BowlTV, bowling lives here. And one other thing I wanted to say that was on my list here, AJ Johnson is throwing the ball better than he ever has in his life. Have a good day, everybody. We'll see you at the U.S. Open.